Welcome to my latest podcast series, One Life. My name's Terence Wallace, and I'm the writer and publisher of a weekly essay entitled Indelible Adventures, and I'm your host. This podcast series sets out to prompt and challenge your thinking about life and what it means to really live your life. I'll share with you my insights and personal experiences with the sole objective of getting you to reflect and think about your approach to living your best life. So let's get started. This week's episode is entitled Imperfect. We're all imperfect in some way, shape or form, perfectly flawed if you will. And no matter who we are, every one of us has a backstory that has overtones of guilt, shame, happiness, joy and love. Many of these are intertwined, as you'd expect. For me personally, there have been times in my life where guilt and shame have been overpowering. However, I also realize, perhaps with the passing of years, that your past doesn't define who you are unless you let it. However, I don't want you to think that just by ignoring these deep-seated feelings that everything is better or okay, or even expunged from your life, because, let's be clear, they're not. I know for me personally that those deep-seated feelings will continue to surface and be present in my life, but I also believe that you can determine what defines you as a human being by your own mindset. I'm not afraid to tell you that I've had years of counselling to help me overcome events from my childhood. I suppose this has truly helped me understand that my past doesn't define who I am today, nor the person that I want to continue to be. I watched a really incredible TED Talk with Brené Brown, whose topic was listening to shame. One of the revelations that I had after watching the TED Talk with Brené Brown was that for shame to flourish, you need secrecy, silence, and judgment. And there's an inconvenience to shame which makes it difficult to tackle, talk about, and even listen to as a friend. Another incredibly important thing I've learned from my counseling is that being vulnerable and showing your emotions is okay. But it's taken me almost an entire lifetime to have that realization. It's also important to understand that our imperfections are classless. No matter who you are, how you were raised, what socioeconomic class you're from, everything is irrelevant because each of us is individual and internalize many of the things that impact us in our childhoods. I, like most of my cohort in rural Australia, observed the stoicism of the adult males around us. And we took that on board as that's the way men are supposed to act. And this was all well and good until my mother passed away when I was in my mid-20s. This became a watershed moment in my life, with all my emotions bubbling to the surface. And as you can imagine, with grief as a catalyst, everything came out. Me, like my siblings, wept long and hard with her loss. It was with her passing that my emotional floodgates opened, and they just never seemed to be able to shut again. Something had released inside me that I couldn't control or take back. I'd opened a veritable Pandora's box of emotions. Many past experiences also began to surface shortly afterwards. These I'd successfully buried deep inside and literally put into a dark corner of my brain and thrown away the key. One thing was apparent, and that was that I needed help. With time and counselling, I was able to regain my equilibrium of my emotional state and resume a somewhat normal existence, albeit my emotions held in check by the barest of margins at times. And since that time, my tears have always been close at hand, and still to this day are. Then, after my dad died, those feelings of loss resurfaced once again, and were even more overpowering this time around. It seemed that everything had dissolved with his passing, and that I was back to square one. Not only had I lost both my parents, and felt as though I was an orphan, but I felt adrift in every sense of the word. I realize that I'm not alone, and that many of you have also gone through similar life-changing events. Each of us handles those life-changing events in various ways. For me, it was counseling, and to really reflect on my life and the things that were important to it. And whether we like it or not, we have to embrace those moments in our life and those sometimes uncomfortable feelings and emotions and look at them head on. Opening yourself up and being vulnerable sets you free, and it's an amazing antidote to guilt and shame as well. What does imperfection really mean anyway? I suppose it's allowing others to see you, the real you, warts and all. For most of us in a world of social media, me included by the way, we always want to portray ourselves as having the perfect life. You only really show the good stuff, and the stuff that you think people will want to see. However, the reality is sometimes quite different. In fact, I believe it's human nature to put our best selves forward, but I've also realized that we must be true to ourselves no matter what. I guess I've found a great outlet because deep down my weekly essay is a way to open myself up, exposing many of my inner thoughts, passions, and ebbs and flows of life, even the most difficult topics to broach at times. Imperfections are like battle scars. They add depth and character, especially when coupled with your authentic self. I guess my one piece of advice is just be you. Not for anyone else, but just for yourself. And that means that showing your emotions and your vulnerabilities and all of the things that go with you, and putting them out on display and not being afraid of being judged. The people that love you unconditionally will always be there for you and will always embrace your imperfections and love you just the same no matter what. Remember, those imperfections make you who you are today and the very best version of yourself. If you'd like to learn more about Indelible Adventures and the products and services we provide, please take a moment to visit the website at www.indelibleadventures.com. Indelible Adventures is one word. Thanks for listening, and look forward to hosting you again very soon.